And we are live. V dropped.
Yes. Yeah, I'm here. Hello? I'm hearing
Okay,
you.
we're live.
Oh, it was weird, bro. Very strange. Good morning, everyone, and aloha snack bar. You have joined the only Great Ape and his cohort, the one and only master of the flux capacitor, for another edition of Rogue Money Mornings, where we break down the news, the views, and all the information that is important to you. With that being said, check us out on roguemoney.net. Follow us on Twitter at The Rogue Money, and check out our Rogue Money Facebook page. Also on every single podcasting app, iTunes, Google Play Music, we're all there. Pocket Cast, we're everywhere. And we're also on Apple News. Check out our sponsors over at myfreedomnow.us, myfreedomnow.us. What's up, Siege? Is there a technical problem?
Good. It sounded like you were clipping for a minute, but I think you're okay.
Okay. Oh, that's weird. Very strange. I think the boys at the NSA is starting to tap into me. Better go downstairs and get that cat food.
Don't do the cat food. Don't do it.
No,
Don't do it, V.
I'm putting down the can of Whiskas. I'm putting down the can of Whiskas and I'm stepping away slowly. Okay. MyFreedomNow.us, where they can go ahead and get you $600,000 in unsecured funding, as well as $600,000 in unsecured funding, as well as fixing your credit, getting out of debt, and helping you in your debt situations. Also, check out mygoldusb.com. Mygoldusb.com. Surf the web anonymously. Get 1024 military bit grade encryption. And I need more coffee because I'm just bumbling and stumbling through this morning. See, just what happens, dude.
I just started my second cup, V, so I'm right there with you. I'm not too far behind.
On my first cup, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had my second cup. I played basketball last night for an hour and a half. No substitutes at all. No subs. So needless to say, my back is sore. My hamstrings are sore.
Damn.
So I'm going to have to get to the gym and hit it and get it stretched out, you know?
Yeah, I'm getting back into the gym. I took like a week off just to give my joints a break. So supposed to go in at some point today or tomorrow.
Well, you know, when you're a gorilla and you're bench pressing 1,000 pounds, you know, occasionally you gotta, you know, the muscles can do it, but the joints sometimes have a little difficulty with that.
It is, man. It is. I'm realizing I'm getting older. I can't be throwing around 150-pound dumbbells, you know, doing shoulder presses with 405. Can't be doing those anymore, man. I hear the crunching of my ligaments, man. Just can't. I'm starting to use wrist wraps now. Like, I've never used wrist wraps.
Really interesting.
Yeah. It's because it's like hurting my wrist. I'm like,
do you carry around the icy hot and Bengay too now, V?
Dude, guys make fun of me at the gym, and I'll tell you why. They make fun of me because I have a fanny pack, right? They're like, oh, look, you got these stupid gay fanny pack, yeah. But literally, my fanny pack, I have my wraps, I have my straps, I got my Bengay, I got my little icy hot pack.
Ready to do battle.
I'm ready to do battle. They'll start making fun of me until I start moving enormous amounts of weight, and then they're like, you know what? Since you move that much, you can wear whatever the hell you want. It pays to be a 265-pound gorilla. Ugh. Anyway, we are into the news, and Siege and I are fighting. We're fighting mortality, Siege. That's what it is, bro.
We're fighting
mortality.
It's an uphill battle too, unfortunately.
Oh my god, it's the worst, man. I think I need surgery on my foot. That's another thing. I do, man. I can't play ball anymore. I got a jacked up left foot. This is so bad. Oh man. Anyway, where do you want to begin, bro? We got a lot of things to cover here.
Yeah, I mean, I think we might as well just kick off and talk about, you know, the stench of Lynch, Loretta Lynch.
The stench of Lynch.
So, you know, yesterday we discussed it quite intensely in regarding this quote unquote Russian attorney and contacting Don Jr. and everything that transpired there. But later on in the day, V, it came out and was.
Hey, let me ask you a question. How did this special Russian attorney come to America? How?
Well, apparently her visa at first was denied.
Really?
But but under undisclosed special circumstances, the Justice Department under Loretta Lynch approved her visa.
What?
Extraordinary circumstances, not special. I'm sorry.
Wow. So you mean to tell me they actually stamped on her application extraordinary circumstances? That's incredible. And that's the whole entire thing. This is the whole Donald Trump Jr. thing is a failed operation. Can we just go ahead and start calling the Donald Trump the Teflon Don, because nothing they throw at this guy is sticking.
Nothing sticking. And again, it's I hope they call her in to testify. I mean, I think at this point they have to. But I mean, I think the level of uncertainty, and not only that, if you think about the timing of this, right? I think that this was a lot earlier when John McCain and that quote unquote original, the British intel that provided this dossier, this fake dossier on Trump and all this narrative. So who really provided this information, and did this quote unquote Russian attorney contact with perhaps saying, you know what, I have dirt on Trump? I mean, this. It's just amazing. They're throwing anything and everything they can at the wall. Nothing sticking. We have 2 Democratic Congress representatives yesterday that filed articles of impeachment, which holds no merit at this time. Just the absolute craziness that's happening in DC, and a lot of this again is they're sticking to their agenda, lining up around the 2018 midterms, and when they do, it's going to be a bloodbath. I think we're going to see even more Republican-dominated areas, and even in perhaps some areas that traditionally have been Democratic strongholds for years.
Absolutely, man. I mean, there's just so much corruption that a normal human being can take. This type of desperation, this type of crookedness, it's unprecedented. So anybody with a conscience, why would you still want to be Democrat? Why would you still want to, play up these establishment candidates? And I think, that's the whole entire sense that people are starting to get these days, CJ, is these are establishment candidates. These are people that they cannot rely upon. They can't trust, bro.
No, they can't. And I think even at this point, I think it's going to even have to be some more people engage, more citizen engagement to start pressing some of these topics, some of these legislations that we want passed. How many times can we sit there and say in the voting cycle that we want term limits? And then it's discussed for like 5 minutes. It's the flavor of the day, and then it's gone. Meaningful change to really not go there and change the system, but to end the system of corruption that's existed for years. And I truly believe that Trump is going. That's the effort that he's putting forth, and that's why the media, the deep state, the Democratic Party, the Republican hardline base, all these long time political establishment persons that have been there for years, taking money from taxpayers, becoming millionaires literally less than 5 years, making moderate salaries, and somehow they retire multimillionaires. The level of corruption is just gosh awful, and the system has got to change. It's got to end.
Yeah, absolutely correct, man. Absolutely correct, 1000%.
And I think yesterday Trey Gowdy said it best. Trey Gowdy, I can't remember. I think it was Martha McCullough. He was doing an interview with, and in terms of this information, how this keeps coming out in regards to potential meetings and everything, he said it best. He said at this point, what needs to happen is Trump needs to get everybody associated with the campaign, everyone associated with it, bring them into the office, shut the doors, lock it, give them all a pen and paper and say, hey, do me a favor. Think back at any time if you talked or you met with any particular Russian, write it down right now so that we can turn it over to who's the former FBI director that's heading up the special, whoever it is. I mean, it doesn't. Anyway, make a long story short, his point is that this is like this trickle out thing that continues to happen, and they didn't just go ahead and get it all open. Let's try to even though that there's nothing established, just to establish that level of transparency. Kind of like Don Jr. does. I mean, I give him a high five. I mean, for him to come out and say, go on Sean Hannity, release his emails, And for him to hit it straight on like he did, that says a lot about his
He's a great
character.
guy, dude. I love him so much. Like the guy he's a great guy. I mean, there's a lot of spotlight on Ivanka and whatnot, but dude, I think Don Jr. He's like the quiet storm in the background, dude. That guy's legit. I like him.
Yeah, and he's brutal. He's straightforward.
Yep.
He's honest. So
Yes.
again, I hope as a country we can move through this. But again, be like we continue to say the last couple of shows, they're going to keep pushing this whole Russian thing clear up until 2018 midterms.
Yeah, absolutely, man. 1000%. Which brings us to the next. Did you realize on the 4th of July, the U.S. could have taken the kill shot against some dumb fool, aka Kim Jong Un?
You know, I did not know Kim Jong Un.
Yeah, some dumb fool. Well, here it is. When North Korea tested its first successful intercontinental business ballistic missile on July 4th, the U.S. forces had a very easy shot at killing some dumb fool, but didn't. Stratfor Asia-Pacific consultant Roger Baker told Business Insider during the launch, Kim reportedly hung around the platform smoking cigarettes for over an hour. Dude, you know how much of a signal that is to a sniper? You're out there smoking a cigarette, chain smoking. And this guy smokes Ferragamos, bro. Okay, this guy smokes like packs of cigarettes at like hundreds of dollars. Okay? Hundreds of dollars for one pack. So, you know, being the fattest man in North Korea, you know, it has its privileges. U.S. military generally knows when the North Korean missile test will occur, but of course hasn't launched a preemptive strike to stop one. But it's unusual that the U.S. would allow it to leak, that Kim could have been eliminated and wasn't. The consultant believes it's possible Washington allowed the information to leak to show that it doesn't want to kill Kim at any chances it gets, in hopes that even an olive branch that small could persuade the North Korea to show the pace of its ballistic missile and nuclear program development. Kim has become increasingly paranoid by the possibility of a U.S. intelligence services or special forces assassination. U.S. Secret Secretary of State Tillerson has stated, however, that Washington wants to bring Kim Jong-un to his senses, not to his knees. Kim has resorted to traveling only at night, using his workers' Mercedes-Benz to confuse would-be assassins, Sputnik has reported. Now, it's pretty funny. Okay, the reason why I brought up this article is this. This is what I've been saying since June, bro. There's not going to be no military action,
right,
in the Korean Peninsula. And how many guys in the mainstream media and alt media are trumpeting, imminent strike in North Korea, you know, and then, you know, then they're selling you, like, you know, I don't know, penis enhancement pills or something like that right after they say that. And I said that it's all rhetoric, and I said that the idea of China and Russia stabilizing North Koreans, that's what's going to prevail, okay? Because any sort of a strike on North Korea will be destabilizing to the entire region. It's bad for Russia. It's bad for China. It's horribly bad for South Korea. Okay? No one wins in that situation. And they're not going to unleash chaos for the sake of releasing chaos. I've said this. London Paul has said this. And here's the proof of the matter, man. They could have taken out that fat-headed... I mean, come on. You cannot miss that fat-headed Kim Jong-un. Okay, you can't, with his fat head, that little midget, he's out there with his big, ginormous head, looking like a bobblehead doll, chain-smoking Ferragamo cigarettes, you know, in the cool of the night or something. It was an easy kill shot. They didn't. And they know, like what Tillerson said, we want to bring him to his senses, not to his knees. Because the strategic fallout from an event like that is, again, nobody wins that scenario. So again, it's a foregone conclusion. Anyway, man, Russia's offering the outhouse of Saud a venture into the Arctic liquid natural gas. CJ, isn't that some crazy news right there?
Well, you know, imagine that. Imagine you know, Russia not just selling them weapons, right? I mean, imagine some strategic talks around energy and trade. Yeah, so you know, good for Russia. You know, so basically Saudi Arabia will be investing in Russia's Arctic LNG project. We all know that the Saudis, in terms of their oil wells, are drying up. So the Saudis have to diversify. So this would be an important move for the Saudis to establish again. And we're witnessing that whole pivot of the Saudis pivoting towards Russia and China, and this will continue to happen.
Absolutely, man. Because again, what are they doing here? They are using the power of fortune. They're using the power of wealth, using the power of resources, right? In order to win an argument. Why? Because Saudi Arabia, the more out of energy that they become, okay, the more rattled they become. The more out of energy they become, the more desperate they become. Okay, and that is why that's why they got into the whole Syrian fiasco to begin with. Why? Over the fact that they wanted to create an LNG pipeline that's going to run from Qatar into Syria onwards into the European markets. Qatar is a part of that. And it's over the energy that Saudi Arabia and Qatar are now cross with each other, and that's being undone. So Russia's doing this in two-pronged effect. Number one, it gives LNG to the Saudis, which they're happy about because they need it. They need to diversify their energy. Number two, it cools down the tensions between Saudi Arabia and Qatar, so things could be normalized. You see, this is a stabilizing event. Okay, this is a stabilizing event for everybody in the Middle East. And look what Russia is doing versus what the deep state here in the U.S. would do. They would try to exploit the situation in the Middle East by creating more chaos, probably instigate some sort of a war in Qatar, and then justify U.S. forces that go in and make things all the more worse. Okay? So there is a clear difference here, CJ. A clear difference. Anyway.
Bingo. Yeah, absolutely. It sure is. It's awesome. Good stuff.
Yep. If we enter a cashless society, CJ, what's going to happen? Even though we're already there. Good.
And again, I hear a lot of talk about this, the fear of it happening, everything. And so, you're exactly right. And that's my point to this article that, cash society is closer. I mean, especially for the younger groups that are opting for is it the Apple Pay, the Google Pay? I think even phone manufacturers now have their own pay system. With the use of debit cards. I mean, for the most part, I rarely see, just people walking around with trolls of cash anymore. The only circumstance that I could think of is in the event of like any power outages, what would happen during that time period if they couldn't do any type of electronic, transactions. But more than likely, they're not gonna sell you anything anyway at that point. And then obviously just for privacy in terms of monitoring your transactions, where your purchases are and so forth. But I think we're almost pretty much at a cashless society. I don't think that we're going to be embedded with chips or anything like that. But again, just moving more towards the technology that's allowing for just for society to evolve into. There's nothing worse than being at a check stand or going to the grocery store, and you're sitting there, you have all your groceries, and then the person in front of you whips out their checkbook to write a check for their purchases, and they're taking like 15 minutes to write a check fee.
Yep, dude, that's the worst. That's the worst. Like if I see somebody fumbling with their checkbook, I'm like, really, man? Really? We're back to that now?
Right. Well, and it just amazes me still too that with some of the printing of the currency, like the coins, like the penny, for example, that it costs more to make the penny than it's physically even worth. I mean, right. How does that make sense?
Exactly correct, man. Well, yeah, exactly correct. First study First study confirms link of mercury and autism. No.
Yeah, so this is a study. This article was published by Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and it actually talks about a international journal, Science of Total Environment, published a compelling study from the Republic of Korea, which has a pretty high autism prevalence rate there, But this study is one of the first that actually takes a look at the cycle of the exposure of the mother from the time of conception up until the point that autism is designated, and takes a look specifically at the amount of mercury exposure that happens. And this is something that in the past that they didn't want to study because they didn't want to reveal truly what's happening with these mercury-induced autism that is currently happening. Now, this study in part, its key results, because it measures the data based upon 458 of 1,750. So it's not just we looked at 5 people or we looked at lab rats. This is actually looking at physical people. A lot of those studies in the past don't do that. Now, one thing that's interesting in terms of the limitation in this study is, for some reason, they left out they failed to define, they labeled it just mercury in general versus breaking it down to talk about between like thimerosal exposure.
Right.
And the thimerosal is the preservative that's used in vaccines.
Right.
They say that it's been taken out, but who knows at this point. So we'll see more studies like this coming forth. I know that there's a huge organization that's pushing for vaccine safety. Del Bigtree, that we need to get him back on.
Yeah, I want to have Del back on, man. I want to have him another round with Vax. That was awesome.
Yeah, he launched a radio show, B, and I think it's called High Wired or Wired. But anyway, I want to get him back on because they specifically talk a lot about truth in medicine, truth in vaccines, truth of pharmaceuticals. So he's continuing that momentum, and I'm glad he's found his passion. So we'll get him back on so that he can talk about some of these articles more in depth.
Yep, absolutely, bro. Very strategic move by China, man. This is key. China builds its first overseas military base. CJ, tell us where that base is, and I'll break it down, brother.
Yeah, break this down. I saw this article came up, and it was like red lights that came after me and said, wait a minute, this is more than just them putting a base somewhere. So they're building their first overseas military base in the Horn of Africa, V.
Yeah. It is right now in Djibouti, and it's pretty funny that the Djibouti government has kicked out the Americans because they were not doing nothing but messing up the whole entire place. And the Chinese have come in as, a stabilizing force to begin to rebuild and begin to create infrastructure and whatnot that's needed to be done over there. And their first naval base is being built over there, and it's completely operational. They have a military base there as well. Now, people will say, the Pentagon will say, this is an aggressive move by China. No. What is happening in the South China Seas? Okay, what is happening in Djibouti and what is happening in other various places in the world? These are key strategic choke points through which the One Belt, One Road initiative will be running through. You have to understand what is being played here. Okay, people often say, well, the dollar's not backed by gold. Correct. It's not backed by gold, but it's backed by the full faith and power and might of the United States Navy. The United States Navy ensures the survival of the petrodollar. It ensures that logistics and transportation and shipping goes uninhibited throughout all the oceans of the world without fear or threat of pirates, without fear or threat of any other foreign entity harassing a ship. So the U.S. Navy ensures that. The Chinese Navy is doing the same thing, and the Russian military is doing the same thing. They are ensuring that the One Belt, One Road initiative will be protected militarily. They don't have to worry about highway bandits. They don't have to worry about pirates. They don't have to worry about anything. Okay? So having a strategic choke point, like in Djibouti at the Horn of Africa, is vital. And if you look at the map, folks, okay, the map of where, Djibouti is, all right, the Horn of Africa, okay, is the perfect choke point because right across from Africa you have another place which is very vital, and that is Yemen. And the Chinese, as I detailed before, okay, have been in Yemen since 1954. Djibouti and Yemen is that little pinch point. The Chinese control both those pinch points. They are controlling what will be flowing out of the Red Sea and also in the Gulf of Aden, which is also vital because if you take the Red Sea, you go north, you have the Egyptian Peninsula right there. Okay, you have the Egyptian Isthmus right there, right? Where the Suez region. And the Suez region, folks, where the Suez Canal is, that's being built up considerably because, because of the One Belt, One Road initiative. And then you further north you go from the Suez area, you have what is called the Leviathan gas and LNG setup that Israel has done, and also Lebanon is involved with that as well at some degree. You have a lot of energy here, so having this choke point is very, very strategic, and that is the reason why China is there. They're showing the world, they're showing their partners that they are ready to protect and to serve and to ensure the free flow of energy and goods throughout the entire world. Goodbye, dollar.
Bingo.
All right, Bitcoin advocate trolls Yellen, and what's that all about, Siege?
This was awesome. You got to watch this video later on, V. But yesterday, Yellen was providing testimony just in regards to. There's a lot of question in regards to the Fed easing their balance sheet. So during this testimony, a guy that's not literally probably less than probably 4 feet behind her holds up a notepad, B, and it says buy Bitcoin during her testimony. He was quickly escorted from the meeting, but she was just completely trolled by this. So this is just hilarious because, we're talking about the Federal Reserve, and then he puts up a sign, buy Bitcoin. Now, interestingly enough, through this article, it does also state that former JP Morgan Chase chief equity strategist specific Tom Lee made a prediction for Bitcoin, V, and this is specifically what he said. We believe one of the drivers of cryptocurrencies are cannibalizing demand for gold. Based on this premise, we take a stab at establishing valuation framework for Bitcoin. Based upon our model, we estimate that Bitcoin's value per unit could be 20,000 to 55,000 by 2022. And specifically, he goes on to state the reason why he argues this is just for the fact that there is a limited supply of Bitcoin. It's not an endless, it's not, printing of money here, that there are 21 million. So again, this did, and yesterday Bitcoin did come up nicely a little bit. I don't know the exact percentage that it did come up yesterday, V, but it's just hilarious. This troll that came out and just completely trolled Yellen having this sign. So if you haven't checked out this video, just Google it. But it's funny to watch this.
Yeah, I just saw that, dude. It's friggin' hilarious, man. He's getting trolled hardcore. I love it. Jamie Dimon's worried too, man. He's worried that his ass won't be saved the next time, CJ.
Yeah, so yesterday Jamie Dimon came out. He was over in Paris talking specifically around that this is the first time ever in the history of the Fed that it's actually unwinding QE. And we know through QE 1, 2, and 3 that specifically the Fed pumping money into the economy, basically, what it amounts to, although it only impacted and helped the 1%, hence the financial institution that Jamie Dimon represents. So specifically, Dimon is now out there, quote unquote, we've never had QE like this before. We've never had unwinding like this before. Obviously, that should say something to you about the risk that might mean, because we've never lived in it with this before. So Dimon is saying this specifically because he's watching his own tail, because, if you look at JP Morgan's history and where they performed, the only reason that their stock, that they perform like this the last several years, is specifically because of the Fed and their quantities, and specifically pumping money to the banks to raise their balance sheets.
Yep. And at the end of the day, is when these banksters are out there, they're all of a sudden they're worried. They're worried about the unwinding, and they're so scared. It's actually the opposite. They want you to be freaked out so that you will dump, and it'll be a buying spree for these guys. That's what it is. It's when these guys are confident. That's when you should be worried. Okay, this is the new economy, guys. This is the new economy. This is the electronic economy. Okay, it has no bearing on the physical economy. The physical economy has been dead since 2008. I've been saying this for quite some time now. Okay, the physical economy is dead since 2008. This is the electronic economy. So you got Jamie Dimon, and you have all these other, blank fines. These guys are coming out there. They're really concerned about the little guy in Main Street, and they're so concerned. Believe it or not, they're just trying to scare the piss out of you. Okay, they're trying to make you pick up the can of cat food and head to the basement. Okay, meanwhile, these guys are going to, whatever sell-off is for them is just a correction. Whatever unwind is going to happen, it's going to be a correction. They're going to be jumping back into equities and ride this bad boy to a 30,000 point Dow. That's what's going to happen. And then possibly even a 50,000 point Dow eventually. But again, you got to understand, it doesn't matter how high the Dow goes. It has no bearing on the physical economy. The physical economy is rotting away. It's dead. We're trying to pump real life back into it. We try to pump real life back into it by getting manufacturing back, by getting things humming again in this country. Anyway, with that being said, CJ, we're at the end of the broadcast. What do we got going on today? Do we have we don't have Harley
saying we do. Hanging with Harley, 12 noon today.
Yes.
And then V did just a terrific interview yesterday with Harley and a member of the EU Parliament, Marco Zanni.
Yep.
Zanni yesterday. Marco did a great job of really explaining specifically what is going on in the banking financial institution. He's doing everything he can to raise the alarm in regards to what is happening, and specifically talking about Italy and a potential them trying to leave the. I'm not going to spoil the interview because he does it. He states it a lot better than I do. So we're going to work hard to try to get that released. We just got a little bit of work to do on it, and then obviously today at 4 p.m. Cuss with Gus. Yeah, time to cuss with Gus. Yeah, so it's a big day here at Rogue Money. Stay tuned. Go to our website, roguemoney.net. Check it out. Our writers are always just amazing work. They work their tail off, pumping out great articles. So go there and check that out, roguemoney.net.
With that being said, guys, again, check out our sponsors, myfreedomnow.us and mygoldusb.com. We're over and out. Take it away, CJ.